Oh, g'day everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live, the third in our post-season series of Tuesday Night Live, and probably the happiest, I would imagine, given the news today. And if you haven't heard what the news is, you'll find out soon enough. Let's get into it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Night Live this happy Tuesday, the 21st of September 2021. Joining me, as always, the ever hopeful, the ever optimistic Peter J. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very well, mate. And as you well know, there was never a doubt in my mind we'd get that deal over the line. I was confident all the way.
I was just about to go and see if you're okay, get some counselling or send a nice bottle of Maker's Mark over or something like that.
It just feels like in the last 5 or 6 years we've never been able to have nice things, and so
That's true.
It was very, very nice, and I've even actually broken out the Wild Turkey Rare Breed tonight, and so I'm having a very, very smooth one as we talk. There you go. It's big. It's
very
big.
Nice. It is big, and welcome to everyone who's joined us on Discord as well as YouTube and Twitch, of course. If you're on Discord and you want to have something to say tonight, feel free. We're all festive tonight, so stick up your hand and we'll have you on to have your say. There's lots of jubilation in the chat, Peter. Jubilation, lots of relief. But first things first, what do you think of the Brownlow?
Well, I'm one of those unfortunate futuristic people that has a smart TV, and I stream everything. So we actually don't have normal TV, and for some bizarre reason, 7plus didn't stream that, and KO didn't stream it, and there was actually no streaming whatsoever. We didn't realise till the night.
How
I didn't
bizarre.
Get to watch it.
That's weird.
Really bizarre. And yet 7plus, they'll be streaming the grand final.
Yeah.
But they for some reason there was some little glitch in the deal, and it meant that you could not get the AFL Live Pass anymore. That's gone. Foxtel have the streaming rights now, and Foxtel decided not to stream the Brownlow. They were instead they had some old grand finals on. They didn't have it on, and so KO didn't have it, and 7plus said that they couldn't stream it. So it served. There was a big meltdown on Twitter about it. But anyway, it is what it is. So I didn't actually get to watch it. But look, the result was the result. I mean, you could have thrown a blanket over half a dozen midfielders and expected that the result would come from those players, and it did. And I have no qualms about the winner. He polled in 16 games or something like that, and so good luck to him. And he had a very, very good season. And I think the Bont was probably a little bit unlucky that the Bulldogs just dropped off a little bit in that last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. Otherwise, he might have got over the line. So, look, I think for those that, there is there was a lot of drama that came out of it, about the fact that being a midfielder's medal and the fact that so many votes now are concentrated amongst so few. So, I guess that was a talking point out of it.
Yep. Look, I haven't really got a problem with Ollie winning it. He's obviously had a very consistent season and, averaging over 32 possessions or whatever it is over the course of the year. You could argue about his comparison to other players in the mix. Bontempelli probably suffered a little bit with a little bit of a late season slump that coincided with the Bulldogs' late season slump. I still maintain that I reckon it'll come out in the post-season that they trained their asses off in July. I really do think that, but we'll see. I think probably the biggest talking point for mine is the disparity between the best and the rest. You had this big clump of high vote getters, and then this massive gulf to the rest. And it appears to me that the umpires are dialing it in, and I don't suggest that Wines wasn't a deserving winner, but I just feel like there were so many players, without going into specific games or rounds or anything like that, so many players that just didn't poll anywhere near as well as expected, because the umpires seemed to zero in on their favourites very early and just stuck with them.
I think that's right, and I think that the other thing, I mean, I read through over the last couple of days when you look at some of the guys that have won it previously, and they've won up, 18 and 20 votes.
Yeah.
I think I read that Gavin Wangadeen won his with 18 votes or something,
Yeah.
and so it does beg the question about what they're thinking. I saw a couple of really, really sort of lame attempts to try and explain that away, like, the really good midfielders aren't tagged as much anymore. The really good midfielders rotate through the middle more than they used to. Just all self-serving rubbish really.
Like that. Yep.
And so it's very, very bizarre. I saw some really good stats, where the amount of rounds where players got 10 coaches' votes and 0 Brownlow
Yeah,
votes.
I saw that as well. Yeah.
I mean, really bizarre stuff. So I think that there's a case for the AFL to look at that. And look, I think that, you've got 3 really main awards. You've got the Players Award, the Coaches Award, the Umpires Award, and that's okay. So I don't think they need to change it. I think that, you've got 2 high status awards that come from one from the coaches, one from the players. So I don't think they need to, change that. I think that but they do need to look at, perhaps sit down and talk about the umpires and say, look, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And, even if they have just a sense, it could be perfectly innocent, and it might be just something they just need to refocus their minds on. But I think it would certainly be worth having a sit down with the umpires and saying that, players are now getting 36 votes, and players can't win a Brownlow with 33 votes anymore.
Well,
Very bizarre.
it's they want it to be considered the most prestigious award in the game, and we have had other awards that you could argue are probably more reflective of what's actually transpired. The MVP, the Coaches Award, etc., etc. And if they want to maintain the Charlie as the pinnacle, then they have to make sure they maintain its credibility. And at the moment, it is. We've said it for years and years and years. It heavily leans towards midfielders. As soon as Tech stopped kicking 6 goals, he was nowhere. Stuff like that. The fact that a bloke like Buddy Franklin has never won one. You could go through a number of top tier players who haven't actually gotten close. They need to do something about it, but they won't. They won't, Peter.
They won't. I think they, I did read somewhere, you've got the Coleman medal for the forwards, you've got the Brownlow for the mids. Could we have something like the Danny Frawley medal that is given out for the best defender of the year?
Would love it.
I don't know.
Would love it.
But there's got to be some recognition of defenders. My goodness me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people argue that playing defence isn't, particularly as a key defender, isn't a terribly difficult role. You just got to, have certain attributes and good concentration and be able to stick with your player, etc. But there are many facets of playing in defence now in the modern game that are key, absolutely key to your team winning. The amount of rebound that teams get off half back. The amount of, being able to zone. I mean, look at a bloke like Aliir. Now, you can argue as much as you like that Aliir was the beneficiary of some pretty poor tactics, and the Bulldogs certainly showed that last weekend when they actually sunk some time into him. But nonetheless, Aliir is a key factor in why Port Adelaide made a preliminary final. And we barely heard his name.
No, and you could go through Lever, you could go through May, you could go through Bailey Dale at the Bulldogs, you could go through Caleb Daniel, you could go through Christian Salem. All, architects, critical players to the structure of those teams.
Yeah. So I agree.
Tom Stewart, all players that are absolutely elite at what they do. And the thing is, it's crept into the All Australian team, where you've got 12 midfielders, into the All Australian team, and
Yeah.
I don't know, this whole obsession, and I think that we talk so much about, it's all won and lost in the midfield.
Mm.
So I think that the focus of the whole game has just gone on to those half a dozen, and not even the wings, who are midfielders,
Yeah.
not even the wings, who are specialists,
No. Well, Seed only
absolute
got how
specialists
many
at their
votes did
role.
Seed get? He got like 3 votes in or something. More
I can't
meters
remember
gained
now.
than anyone in the competition, and he gets like half a dozen votes at best. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it was altogether pretty poor. So I think that's something that the AFL certainly needs to look at.
Yeah.
This midfield obsession that we've got in terms of any kind of award.
Yeah. I mean, you compare the amount of votes that Rory Laird got, deservedly, because he had a good season, to a bloke like Geordie Butts. Now, I'm not comparing the two in terms of importance to the team, but having said that, how often did Geordie Butts get beaten this year?
Yeah.
In a losing
Outstanding
team, how many times did Geordie Butts? If he got beaten more than twice this season, I'll be very surprised. And yet, didn't figure in dispatches whatsoever. Rory Laird gets, high teens votes. So,
And we went through 10, probably 10 years of saying who's the most, who's the most who's the least replaceable player on the field, and you'd always look at, and it was always Talia.
Yeah,
Absolutely
right.
Irreplaceable. And now we're
first
looking
picked.
at Butts, and Butts is the same. You're saying, well, who's one of the most irreplaceable players that we've got now? It's Geordie Butts.
Yeah.
If he goes down,
big hole. Big hole. Look, and it appears like everyone's been drinking in the chat, particularly Vardy Magic. The amount of typos going on. Clean it up, you people. It's quite amusing. Anyway, look, enough about the Brownlow. The only last thing I'd say is well done, Jared Lyons, who I think was the top poller for Brisbane.
Yeah, no, good on him.
In a fairly successful year for the Lions. So really good stuff, and good to see the Brisbane boys get around him too.
The Vardy Magic has been, he's on my rare breed, I reckon.
Yeah, but I have to congratulate Vardy because he's the only one, including you, Peter, that didn't get my joke. Butts goes down, he leaves a big hole.
Okay. Yep, gotcha.
Oh, Zelda, devastated Swans fan. Thanks for joining in. We're sorry. You had Kurt Tippett for a number of years and half our draft picks, so can't say that we share too much compassion with you, but we'll try. Anyway,
and we absolutely welcome you to the cast. No question.
Yes, we do. Absolutely, we're very inclusive, Peter, aren't we? Yeah, except if they're from Port. All right.
That was an exception, I was going to say.
Yeah. All right. Now let's move on a little bit because we had, before we get to the main event, Peter, we're just sort of building up to this, so we keep people, sort of engaged and yeah, all that sort of crap. We had a couple of signings today.
It was great news today, and these were 3 really, really good, strong signings.
Yep.
For us, I reckon all 3 of these guys are real stars, and it was just a pleasure to have a look at the footage that was released and just to remind ourselves, particularly Luke Pedlar. Did you see Luke Pedlar's footage today?
Yes.
Yeah,
people forget about Luke.
People forget about Luke, and there was some really, really exciting stuff there to look at in his SNFL games. Some of his clearance work, his breakaway work was just outstanding. If he can get his body right, get himself fit, he could be a very, very important player going forward. And we've seen Braden Cook, and we've seen just how what an interesting player he can be at his height and his skills. He just looks like he's born to play on that wing sort of half forward, maybe tall midfield. So he's a great signing as well.
Yep.
And one of your favourites, of course, was Sam Berry.
Yes, I'm a fan, and I think he's forgotten in dispatches in terms of our next breed of midfielders, and I think it's probably because he played so much up forward. But I expect big things from Sam, and I'm very, very pleased to see him sign on for another 2, and hopefully he continues to keep Matty Crouch out of the team.
It's
Because
just a
I think
message that it sends, isn't it? It's just a message that all these guys seem to be on board.
Look, it's just a feel that I've had, and I've mentioned it before, Pete, with the interviews that I did at the beginning of the year and little bits and pieces that you hear around the traps and the way that the young lads have been engaged this year. I really, really, really like what I'm seeing out of our next breed. It's the most hopeful that I've been about our next crop of youngsters for quite some time, and that's no disrespect to past players who haven't made it, but this young crop, and I think some of that credit needs to go to Matty Nix,
Yes.
and the rest of the coaching panel, and also the restructured and reorganised and refitted Crows administration, because the level of engagement that we're seeing at the moment is is really positive in my opinion. It augurs well, I think.
Yeah, I think that Matty Nix deserves a lot of credit. He's come in and he's really, tried to build a culture for them to all buy into, which it appears that they have.
Yep.
And so I think that he does deserve a lot of credit. I think, and I think he's, as we talked about last week, I think he's putting together a game, and he's got these kids on board.
Yes.
That they're getting a game together that they think will stand up in finals, and I think that that's what excites them.
Yep.
And I think that they probably feel that, and they had some really, really importantly, they had some reward for effort through the year against top teams,
Mm.
and so they will take a lot of confidence into next year.
Agreed. Now, who have we got left? We've got the rookies, the Cat B rookies, Borlace and Newchurch. I don't think they've signed on yet, have they? Benny Davis.
Borla's got a one. Borla's
Borlace's got a
I
1
reckon, I
year.
reckon,
That's right.
yep, Borla's got a 1 year. We need Paddy Parnell, Ben
Yep.
Davis are the two that spring immediately to mind.
O'Connor.
Ronan O'Connor is the other one.
So we've still got a few, and we're needing to obviously pick a few in the draft. So don't know. I'm starting to wonder whether Benny's going to hang on. I think he might be the unlucky one. He
Could be.
and Ronan, I think, might be the two that drop off at the end of the day. Although the club were very bullish on Ronan, putting out a bit of a media piece on him not long ago. So who
Yeah,
knows?
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, who knows?
And Benny and Davis, they've left very, very late. So
Yeah, might be a case of seeing what happens at draft time. Anyway, trade time, I should say.
yep. So that was a really good news story. Really important players.
Yeah. Now, probably not much else has happened really. Oh, wait a minute. Just a small announcement from the club that young Jordan Dawson, third in the Best and Fairest at Sydney last year, has decided that he would like to be a Crow from 2022. And aren't we all just up and about that?
Well, we are, and why shouldn't we be? It's an exciting time. It's not often that it's happened over the years, Feen.
Correct.
Is it? We've got a high performing player from interstate who's in demand, who's wanted by their club, who's a first 22 player that we've been able to extract and sign on. So that's not something that we've become accustomed to
No.
over the years, to be honest. And
No.
so it's been very, very rare that that's happened.
Sorry, Zelda.
So
Not sorry, Zelda.
so
Sorry, go on.
So sorry, Zelda. We've just to warn you, probably got about 5 or 10 minutes here that you're not going to be happy with. So yeah, it was great, and I think that the thing that I liked about it the most was that we had the agates to go out and extract somebody, and like we've talked about before, thing to actually throw the money on the table,
Yeah.
and actually prize them from where they are, and identify a player that we needed in an age bracket that we needed, and to actually get it done. And so now the last part of the deal, of course, is just to get this trade over the line with the minimum of fuss, I would hope. I would hope that you wouldn't want to embarrass young Jordan by
No,
making a fuss over the trade.
no.
I think Sydney are pretty professional, so let's just get it done.
Yeah. So a couple of questions. First of all, on the trade, last week, before it all happened, we were talking about a first round pick swap. Do we still think that's appropriate, Peter?
Um,
A lot
I
of
think
people saying 23 and a bit of a shuffle might be enough, given the pre-season draft and the fact that he's uncontracted, etc.
I think that you've got to be the key to this, of course, is Hamish, because we're going to have to work out who it is that we're identifying in the draft
Mm.
and where we think that player is going to land. And Horn's gone. I keep reading stuff about, I'm going to trade this, we're going to trade that for Horn. He's gone. He's going to North Melbourne. I think that Callaghan will go as well. Callahan, sorry.
Yeah.
And so really at that stage where you've got a real blanket. And so I think what it's going to boil down to, Fiend, is you're going to knock on Hamish's door and say, well, are you going to be able to get who you want at 12?
Yeah.
And it's possible. It's possible that they could.
It depends on what their target is, but you would think speed and disposal are the two key elements, in and around midfield. And there's a bit around that number 12, including a couple of, but probably a couple of local lads. So look, I'm with you. The only thing against that, I guess, is that giving an opposition team pick 4 is a big deal. You're basically giving them a good player at pick 4. So I can see an argument for trying to hang on to 4 and do deals focused on 23 and maybe a couple of later picks or maybe a next year's pick or something like that, and that may get it done. I think the value of the lad under normal circumstances would be a first round pick swap, but it'll be interesting to see how the club play it, I guess.
Well, look, it will be, and as I said, it'll all. I mean, if you go and knock on Hamish's door and he says, "No, I absolutely need pick 4 to get who I want," then you don't give it up.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Under any circumstances.
Yeah.
So really, he holds the key there, and if they were to do a first round pick swap, then I'm pretty comfortable in thinking to myself, Hamish has got who he wants at 12.
Yeah.
And I'm as a member, I'm happy to live with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get hung up on the draft pick number at all. So it'll just be a case of but if we say, look, absolute first things first, 4's off the table, then it'll be 23 and I don't know, maybe a future second, something in that, which for next year probably should still be a decent pick.
So Surfs makes a good point. We might do a deal with a third-party club such as Richmond, who have 7 of 16. So we might look to downgrade the pick. But I mean, if you're going to do 4 for 7 and 16, why wouldn't you do 4 for Dawson and 12? Really, I don't know. I don't know, because you're still going to be giving 7 to Sydney, or 16 maybe to Sydney, and 7 hanging on to it.
Yeah, I think it's as supporters that just like to watch, I think that there's no point in getting turning yourself in knots about the number, because at the end of the day, Fane, once we gave up pick 2, in round 23, we were pick 4s with the pack.
Yeah. Look, because, and you know me, I've always been a proponent of forget the number. It's about the outcome. What outcome do you want?
Yep. Yeah.
People get held up on, he's not worth this or he's worth more than that or whatever. You get the outcome you want, and as you rightly say, Peter, if we've got a couple earmarked and we think we can get them down, at the back end of round 1, so be it.
Yeah, and you might even be able with again, you don't know who Sydney wants, so what you might be able to do is you might be able to prize a little bit more out of them.
Yep.
Yeah, it might be swapping 12 and Dawson, and you might be able to sell 4 as being worth something extra again. You know,
Yeah.
maybe even just a third round pick or something like that. So you just don't know who we're looking at. So
Yeah.
that's the tough thing.
I'm not aware. Do Sydney have any NGA targets that they need points for this year?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not
I
that
haven't looked at it closely enough.
I
At
haven't
this
heard of.
at this moment, Mac is bursting into his study, trying to get onto his computer to give us his big research about who's doing what in the draft. Sit down, Macca. I haven't looked at it enough. But yeah, there's lots of permutations, but I think it'll be a fairish trade, probably in our favour because of the circumstances. But the bottom line is that we've got a gilt edge first 22 player who's got good skills, plays tall, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him line up on a wing or even part of the centre attendances as a third outside midfielder next year. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that also, the thing is that when you're selling, the club, I mean, obviously the money is important, it's the number one thing, and there's no shame in that. But probably the second most important thing is, if you're a player, you're saying, well, what role are you offering me?
Yeah.
And can my footy be improved? So I'd be very surprised if we didn't say to him, we see you in a wing mid half forward type sort of rotation.
Yeah.
And with a bit of time, and most players have that ambition to play with a bit of midfield time, and that could well be something that we put into, thrown into him. We could have said, look, we've got Laird, Keys, we've got Matt Crouch, we've got these really good first touch ball getters.
Yeah.
Or first hit, midfielders, but we need that. We need that spread, and so that could well have been sold to him. But equally, me, Feen, I'm a very, very. I give the wing position a high degree of respect. And I think it's a specialist position, and he has been playing wing for a lot of the time in Sydney.
Yeah.
So if he's a specialist wing, I think it's a really important role for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I agree. Modern footy, you want to be able to carry the ball in transition for as long as possible, and that last disposal before you head into forward 50 can be so critical, and that's where a player like Dawson, I think, slots in beautifully because he can take a mark. He's got good pace and endurance, but he can deliver as well. So really, really happy about being able to get this one over the line. I think he will play midfield and a little bit forward of the ball at times. And as someone on the chat said, gives us a lot of flexibility because he's got a lot of good attributes. And I think, he comes predominantly off a halfback flank, although this year less so for Sydney. But I think his skills and his attributes are probably worth exploring further up the ground and nearer to the contest, don't you reckon?
Absolutely. Anywhere where we can get him into a bit of space and if that's if that's in that sort of second, third touch midfield rotation, then well and good.
Yeah.
Keep him out of the contest as such, but receiving from from Lairdy or the like, I think is a pretty good option.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was just important, just as a message to the league that that to tell other people that we're on the right track and people are buying in, and I think that for a club like ours that has been through what we've been through, it's so important to get that message out there.
Yep, absolutely, and that's 2 and 2 years. Hately last year, although not as high profile or as well performed, I guess. Jordan this year, and more importantly, we didn't offer Orazio a contract either, so that's another win. So that's 3 wins. As much as Chris Davies or Kane Corns would like to tell everyone that we missed out on Orazio last year, I think Orazio missed out on us, to be honest. But anyway.
Isaiah Dudley has not played a league game yet. He's played plenty of reserves for Bullford Centrals, but not a league game. Just a shout out to PJ there.
Yeah.
Just to ask that on the chat. But actually, another point that PJ mentioned, the fact that we've got Wayne Miller back next year. So Miller and Dawson, is a great combination, and no doubt Matt Crouch will come back into that side as well, just to add a bit more production. And
Yeah.
but I think it looks like it'll be a really quite should be a decent team next year.
Well, the other one that a lot of people have forgotten, and I suggest I probably rate him higher than many, is Mitch Hinge. I think if he can get that shoulder right, and string a few games together, he actually looks like he could be quite a powerful halfback flanker as well. So I'm a bit bullish on Mitch, and I hope he can get that shoulder right, and get into the mix, because defensively, it really comes down to our ability to be able to extract the ball out of contests with some sort of pace. That's where we've lacked, I think, in the last couple of years, is that we haven't exactly lost centre clearances, but the quality of our clearances has been down compared to a Melbourne or a Bulldogs that actually can be quite creative out of contest. Would you say that's about right?
Absolutely right. And I mean, I see Hinge in that sort of Bailey Dale kind of mould where he's coming across half, because a couple of times I saw him kick. When he was up and running, I mean, he kicked the ball like a bullet.
Yeah. So he's got strength too.
So if he had some distribution skills, which he looked like he did, that would be a big win to have him and Chase. I think Chase has got a very good leg as well.
Yeah.
Just gives a bit, gives a bit of polish.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It puts young Brodie Smith under a bit of pressure, I reckon.
Well, it does, and Broads they'll have to find a role for him. I think we've really lacked. I think this makes sense. I think we thought we've had that really good, zip hop halfback with the leg with Brodie, but we haven't really, because it's a point you often make that whilst he can kick the ball long, he doesn't really great at spotting up the targets.
Yeah. But Brodie was very handy when we were playing the push-up really high and then beat him over the back. That's where Brodie was into his own, because he didn't have to pinpoint, did he?
No, that's right. No, very, very true. And it was just that sort of that really flat, hard 50, 55 metre flat sort of, and you're right, it used to catch teams out, but I think we're a bit different now, and so we need a little bit more, the way that the game's gone, you've got those players like Salem and Dale that just, hit targets. They hit, 40-metre darts.
Yeah.
See one of the kicks that Bailey Dale hit against Port last weekend? He was in a back pocket. He just kicked a 40-metre dart through traffic. He hit someone on the chest at half.
It was actually a needle threader, wasn't it? If it's the one I'm thinking of.
It went through about 3 or 4 players that just didn't have time to put a finger on it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. And that opens them up.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Teams that have the ability to attack from deep in their back half, because the advantage is that you catch teams going the other way, and if you can turn that ball around with speed and distribute cleanly out of defence rather than just a little chip to reset, if you can actually rebound quickly from half-back, it is so damaging.
And Caleb Daniel the same. So you get a couple of players like that can kick like that. It just makes all the difference.
Yeah. If someone came knocking for Brodie, being a heart and soul player that he is, consider it, Peter.
Oh, well, you would definitely, but I'm not sure that there'd be a lot of interest in Brodie, to be honest, and I think he probably just sees out his career with us. And it's going to be for players to take that spot. Some guys like Hinge, Miller, those guys it is going to put pressure on him because they play those kind of roles.
Yeah, I guess my worry with Brodie Smith is he represents to me a player similar to Tom Lynch, and one that if he's fit, you pick him.
Yeah,
and that I don't know will be the best course of action from the selection panel.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree 100%. But I can't see a team that would have the interest. But who would be keen for Brodie Smith, do you think, at 30 years old?
Yeah. I mean, you've got the usual suspects of Gold Coast,
Because the teams that are
etc.
it's got to be a contending team, but I feel like that the teams that are contending have got those roles covered.
Well, I tell you who could do with a bit of pace off halfback, and that's St Kilda. St Kilda are a little bit stodgy at times, and I reckon they could do with a bit of pace off halfback or on a wing. Gold Coast, obviously. Um, I think there's a few there. But I think it'd be a hard sell for the Crows to trade Brodie at this stage. You know me, I was calling for Brodie to be traded in 2015.
Yeah.
So he's a good lad and a good player, and it'd be sad to miss him. But I was hoping that we'd get full value from him at 2015 because I thought we'd seen his ceiling, and turns out that we had really.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all ifs, buts, and coconuts. So the other question I was going to ask you, Peter, is not in relation. Have we done Jordan? We've finished Jordan.
I think so. That Sydney supporter will be just about needing
resuscitation.
Resuscitation.
The interesting one for mine is the curious case of Alistair Clarkson, and he's knocked back the Carlton position, which incredibly it looks like they're going to give to Michael Voss. Shakes my head. But Al Clarkson has said he's going to take a year out, and he's stuck to his guns, and he's going to take a year out. But he's also said that most likely he'll get the hunger back next year and he'll go again. There's a few coaches that will have their contracts up there, including our own. Two questions. First of all, if Matty Nix is 3-6 or 4-6 after 10 rounds, and Al Clarkson sticks his head out, what do you do?
Nothing.
Stick with Nix?
Stick with Nix.
The reason I ask is because, and as Surfsides rightly points out, he's coming to Adelaide. He's going to be working with some associates for the next 12 months. He'll be in Adelaide. He's got connections with Adelaide clubs. Obviously, he coached Central Districts for a while. He was on Port's panel for a while. Because my gut feel, and I happen to agree with you about Nix, the only way that I'd considered Clarkson over Nix is if we were 0-8 or something. But I think Clarkson's next club will be Port Adelaide.
I would not be surprised at all. Actually,
and I don't actually think it matters what Ken Hinckley's contract status is. I think Al Clarkson's next destination is Port. He's got the connections there from having coached there previously.
Yeah, he's been at Port. He had a long and fruitful relationship at Port, and I reckon he coached at Centrals too, didn't he?
Yeah, it's Centrals prior to his. That was his lead into an AFL career, and he didn't he coach a couple of flags at Centrals, I think.
Yeah, maybe I think that he would. There would probably be a bit of a romantic kind of thing for Clarko there to say, I'm going to go back and take Port as head coach.
Yeah. Well, he's not back the two biggest clubs in the land.
And can I just put my hand up and say I did call this, didn't I? I said that he would stick to his guns, so I'll take that one. I think that Gold Coast would be the one because I think that the AFL will stump up the money. So if money's a factor, which probably won't be, I think he'd have enough. But I reckon that could be the only contestant for Clarko as the Gold Coast. As far as the Crows go, I have a real, I have a thing that, to me, Matthew Nix, he's taken over. He's taken over a bunch of kids.
Yep.
And he's raising these kids.
Yep.
And I reckon, and he's built a culture there that they all want to stay. They obviously all love him. I reckon if you just, ripped him out and said, "I've got a new dad for you," I don't know how. I don't know whether that would go that well, to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, they're all professionals. They'd move on.
I agree with you 1000%. Things would have to
So I
turn
think
south, Peter.
they'd have to go south really badly. I think we're on a bit of a roll. We're attracting players. We're re-signing players. We've got kids that have bought in.
Yep.
We've turned this list over. There's tremendous buy-in. I mean, go back to to those moments against North Melbourne. I know that we're annoyed that we won, but there was some real stuff happening out there on the field, and you can't put a price on that. And he's created that, and I give him full credit. And so
Yep.
I know that I'm preaching to the converted, but
No, that's
so
fine.
I think that is very, very strong chance though that he would go to Port Adelaide. I think that would fit him nicely to get away from the Melbourne, just to do something different.
Yep.
Get out of Melbourne, and you're right. If he's got connections here, he's going to spend some time here, and I think that I'd actually be surprised if it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, as soon as I learned that he was coming down here, I thought, oh, hang on a minute. And when he knocked back Collingwood and Carlton, I wasn't so surprised. Collingwood was the one that surprised me a little bit, because I thought, biggest club in the land, etc., etc. A huge challenge to get that club up and about. I thought he might take that one, whereas I thought he'd shy away from the basket case down at bloody Carlton. But when he knocked them both back, I thought, oh, hang on a minute. And there's been no real whispers about Kenny Hinkley, but you would have to say after their capitulation in that preliminary final that he is on the nose.
Oh, and in the chat, J&M, you've got it absolutely spot on that David Koch, as we're speaking, he would be all over Clarkson.
Yeah.
All over him.
Yeah, I agree. So you heard it here first on Crowcast. I think I haven't heard anyone else bloody suggest it yet.
No, I reckon it's a real go.
Yeah, watch this space.
And and I'm not going to sit here and have a big shit count on Port, but I think they've got some issues. Next year if they lose Voss, they've lost Schofield.
Yep.
And he was a little bit on the nose there. They've got some really, really important players that are a year or so older.
Yep.
And they've got some inverted commas superstar youngsters that have not been performing to a level that they need to coming on. So that'll be interesting to see how they go next year.
Yeah, a couple of those lads might have second year blues. Rosie, a couple of injuries, and maybe drank a bit too much Kool-Aid. I'm still pretty confident that Rosie will come on because he just oozes class, but he's going to have to put his head down, I think. But you're right.
Well, literally, he's going to have to put his head over the ball.
Over the ball, you're right. Yeah. But you're right. Schofield is the one I reckon they'll miss the most. He's, by all reports, very well regarded, and they'll miss him. Michael Voss, it's hard to get a read on Vossi because he was crazy Vossi up in Brisbane, and then he kind of had his tail between his legs and came down to Port and has been relatively silent. And now, obviously, Carlton have seen something they like. To me, it seems a very strange fit, Michael Voss and Carlton. I don't know what to make of it. Best of a bad bunch, maybe?
Well, I guess you've got to get someone to take the job, don't you?
Yeah, that's what it smells like to me. Brad Scott didn't want it. He went and got an AFL job.
He could be having his own Hinkley moment. That's the way Hinkley got to Port.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think he'd be a better coach for having had that time at Port Adelaide. And he could be a bit more mature, and I think he'll have probably a better list than he had when he took over Brisbane. So see how it goes. But you can't, you can cut it up any way you like. He's going to be a big loss. He's a senior assistant coach at Port Adelaide.
Definitely.
He's a big loss, and on the back of Schofield as well. That's a lot of and then the problem you've got with these guys, a guy like Voss, going back to Melbourne, is that he's got all these relationships with Butters and guys like that. Desmond.
Very good point. Very good point, Peter. Very good point.
And so, and you know what Carlton are like? They'll spend the money. So it'll be very, very interesting. Define better coach, Pete. What does that mean? Scoot? Don't know what you mean. you think a better coach?
Better coach. I think you said
all
that
I'm-
better coach than he was at Brisbane.
Yeah, sorry, excuse. I think that all I'm saying is he'll be a bit more mature. He's had 7 or 8 years as a senior assistant.
Yeah.
He went straight into that coaching job at Brisbane from his playing days, and it was the old, does a great player necessarily make a great coach? Not necessarily. He would have. All I'm meaning is that he would have had a lot more experience now, and he would have learned a lot more.
Yeah.
Being in
Bit of
that senior
humility
role,
too,
so-
Pete. Bit of humility, I think, because let's not forget he was the one that said, "I don't need to be an assistant coach. I'll go straight in." And Brizzy obviously bought it. I mean, he was a champion for that club, and probably to this day in my top 3 favourite players of all time, Michael Voss.
Mm.
An absolute gun. But to be that type of a player, he had an air of arrogance about him, and I think that needed to be shaved off a bit. And I think that certainly was shaved off a bit with the goings on at Brisbane. And I think going into the background and working behind the scenes at Port, you're right, Peter. I think it's given him experience, but I think it's also just brought him back down to earth. And it'll be interesting if assuming he does get the job at Carlton. Be interesting to see how they go. I think the biggest get for Carlton is Brian Cook. If Brian Cook can't turn that club around, then they may as well pack it in my opinion.
Absolutely, but the main reason we want Bossy to get that job, of course, is not just the destabilisation, but also the ongoing destabilisation of trying to recruit players. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping.
That's right. And of course, Carlton have lost Sam Petreski-Seaton. He's decided he wants to go back to...
footballer.
Yep, that'll be a loss for them, although I don't think they used him terribly well.
I don't think they did. I think he'd be a better footballer at West Coast. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Interestingly, there's everything about Chera's gone quiet too, hasn't it, to Carlton?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those ones where you can probably just take, he's nominated his club, and he
has he nominated Carlton? Did he nominate Carlton?
I thought he had. Have I got that wrong?
I don't know whether he actually nominated Carlton.
Oh, okay.
I think he just said he wants to come back to Melbourne, and there was a bit of a stacks on that it was Carlton, and they certainly were the ones.
Sorry, I thought he nominated.
No, I wouldn't mind betting that there's another suitor.
So if it's the D's, as Liquid Crow correctly points out, because I know that I did read somewhere they're interested, they might just be saying, look, just hold off till we get this little kick and catch we've got on Saturday out of the way, and we'll talk about it then.
Imagine that. Makes a strong team stronger. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes left. If you want to have a chat, you better be quick. No one's putting their hands up, Peter, because they're just agreeing with us. Just agreeing with everything that we've got to say tonight. No word on Rankin. Manjeet, haven't heard anything. I would suggest that he stays in Gold Coast and sees out his contract at this stage. Oh, here we go. We got someone. Pete, if you need to go, you can bail. I don't mind taking these people.
No, it's okay, mate. I'll hang on.
Kieran, if you want to come on board. How you going, mate?
How you doing, guys? Yeah, good.
How you going?
Yeah, good. Delighted to see the Dawson news today.
Yeah, very good.
I just wanted to, just a little bit of input I thought I could add with the Voss stuff. Because as I told you before, I did bits with AFL.com in Brisbane. So went to a lot of Voss press conferences and stuff like that. Thing with him, he's so bad getting across. He doesn't seem a very good communicator at all. And I wonder if that was a real issue he had, as well as, they had that go home 5, didn't they? So as well as sort of building perhaps the culture and relationships, I think that might have been an issue with him as well.
I wonder if it's that situation, guys, where you get a player, such a great player, and he just can't accept the mediocrity from other people because he has such high standards of his own, and he doesn't. You know what I mean?
Nathan Buckley syndrome.
Yeah.
That was.
And over here in England. Over here in England, if I use soccer, sorry to do this, but say Roy Keane, great player for Manchester United. Similarly, he never could really accept.
Now you over in the UK? Are you over?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
I'm
in London. Yeah.
You're in London.
So
that's pretty good, Feen, isn't it? We get people from London calling in.
Yeah, it's the second
I've got
time
to
I've
say,
had Kieran on.
while I was teaching-
He was on the wrap a few weeks ago, weren't you, mate?
How good
Yeah, that was
technology.
by accident. I deliberately did this time. Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah, I didn't
certainly-
give you a choice after you accidentally clicked your hand. I was like, no, you're coming on, mate.
It's brilliant to have you on, and brilliant that you're listening to the cast. So that we certainly appreciate your contribution. But
No,
yeah,
it's great. Like the insight you give us is great, and especially with all the of the sort of South Australia kids, it's been great to listen to over the last few weeks and stuff.
Good
it's
on you,
certainly
mate.
interesting, won't it? To see what Posse does and see how he goes at Carlton. It's going to be a really interesting watch next year, I reckon.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really will be.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, mate.
that'll be it, and I'll listen to you guys again soon. See ya.
Oh,
Keep listening, mate. Thank you.
and thanks for the sub.
Take
too.
care. Cheers.
Gee, how's that? People from London just calling in.
Yeah, no,
Technology is crazy.
we had. Hang on, I better kick Kieran out because he's a bit of a Londoner. He can get in, he can't get out. There he
Linger.
goes. There he goes. No, it is good. It's great. I think on the last time we had Kieran on, we had him on from London, and we had someone on from the US, and it was like all happening. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about this cast, and being able to have the live studio audience like we do now, Pete. It's just made it so much easier.
Yeah, brilliant.
Good.
So I think Bossy will get there. I think Bossy will get to Carlton.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of coaches, I guess, probably under a little bit of pressure. Hinkley, we've already talked about. I reckon there might be a little bit of pressure on Chris Scott at Geelong with a new administration coming in, Hocking and the other fella. There might be a little bit of pressure there. Stewie Dew, obviously, under pressure at Gold Coast. Adam Simpson, I reckon, will be okay for now, but they'd be looking for results soon again, I think.
PJ, sorry, just to quickly switch, but PJ has asked a question about how did Jason Horne-Francis, Matty Roberts and Adelaide Draper go for the Panthers on the weekend in the SANF final. I can tell you that Adelaide Draper hasn't played finals. They dropped him back for the under-18s final, which they lost, and Arlo hasn't been able to force his way back into that league team. Jason Horne-Francis did some absolutely ripping things that will only solidify his number one spot in the open draft. I can tell you that Matty Roberts has had a difficult 2 or 3 weeks playing in that grave. He's played in that
He's in the
graveyard
wrong
half forward
spot, isn't he? Wrong spot.
So it's a really difficult role for Matt. He's, as I've seen it, he's worked pretty hard. Like, I think he had 10 possessions, 6 tackles and a goal. And so I think that, if you're playing in that graveyard position, it's hard to make a huge impact, particularly as an 18-year-old when you've only played 3 or 4 league games.
It's an interesting selection by the Panthers to pick him, but then to play him in that spot. Makes you wonder why they haven't got someone that's probably a little bit more suited to that medium-sized forward spot.
Yeah, so it's not a role that's suiting Matt, but to his credit, he's persevering and he's working as hard as he can.
Yeah.
And I guess whatever doesn't break you makes you stronger, and it's all good experience for him. But of course, no doubt he would like to be in the guts. But good news, and I'll quickly just relate this, Feen, is that we have not only, I think I had said that we've got this SA West Australia game coming up, the grand final, but after that we've also got another SAWA game here, I think. And we've also got, or it might just be an SA Allies game. I think we've got, I can't remember if it's 2 or 1. But we've got a game back here at Adelaide. No, it's going to be at Theberton, sorry. Theberton Oval, and I can't quite remember the date. I think it might just be against the Allies, actually, if I think about it.
Yeah.
So we'll have that.
Wouldn't that depend on Allies? A bit hard, wouldn't it, with COVID, with border restrictions?
I guess, but they've scheduled it. It's definitely been added to the schedule. So
yeah, okay.
I can't remember which it'll be. I think in the weekend, maybe after the grand final, but it'll be a Theberton Oval match, and it'll be SA versus the Allies. So we've got 2 more goes. The interesting thing will be is that I doubt very much that Robbo and Jason will play in that game.
Well, you'd think they wouldn't if they're still involved in finals or just finished.
But they're definitely involved this Saturday, so they won't be playing the game against Western Australia in Perth. And interestingly, I read that all of the WA boys that are involved in finals with their clubs won't be playing either.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a bit of a bust. So I think the one to go and see will be the Allies in a couple of weeks time at Febby.
Yeah. Interesting. Very good. Thanks for that, Pete.
Easy.
All right. Well, look, I reckon that's about done it to death. We've had another great lot of participation on chat and on the live studio audience. So thank you everyone who's participated on Discord and also on YouTube. We really appreciate your participation there. Thanks to Kieran for coming on, of course. Thank you, Pete, for your insight and
my pleasure.
Good calls as always, and I'm glad that your blood pressure's gone back down. We will be back we will be back for the wrap to wrap up the grand final on Sunday with Macca and Nikki. Oh, you know what? I reckon it's the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going the Doggies with that week's break.
Yeah. I mean, I would love Melbourne to win it. I really would. Any club supporter that's gone 54 years without winning a flag, or however long the hell it's been, give them a flag for God's sakes. But
I'm small enough to want to see Jake Lever not get one. So that's how small I am. I'm very small-minded. So.
Yeah, no, I get it. But he's going to be at that club for a while, and it would be a bit of a shame if Petrarca and Oliver and Gawn couldn't enjoy one. But my head tells me the Doggies by a couple, but I reckon it'll be a cracking game. I really do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If
streaming on 7+.
Yeah, if both teams turn up, I think it'll be a classic. I really do.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Anyway, very good. Until then, stay safe, everyone. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you, Peter. We will see you on Sunday night for the wrap at 7:30.
Cheers,
good night, everyone.
See you all. Bye now.